Adversity is the fuel for growth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, reminding us that the very challenges we fear are often the very things that shape us into stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. But how often do we truly embrace this idea? How often do we see the obstacles in our lives not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones? Today, we're diving into the heart of Stoic bravery, a timeless philosophy that teaches us how to turn life's toughest moments into our greatest triumphs. What if every setback, every failure, every moment of struggle was an invitation to grow? What if the pain you're facing right now is the very thing that will lead you to your next breakthrough? In this video, we'll explore how Stoic principles can help you reframe adversity, reclaim your power, and transform your challenges into opportunities for resilience and strength. So, let's begin this journey together, because the obstacles in your path might just be the key to unlocking your greatest potential. At the core of Stoic philosophy lies a simple yet profound idea: the dichotomy of control. Life is filled with countless variables, but not all of them are within our power to change. Some things, like the weather, other people's opinions, or even the outcome of a situation, are simply beyond our reach. But what we can control is how we respond. Our thoughts, our actions, and our attitudes are ours to shape, no matter what life throws our way. As Epictetus famously said, some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. This principle isn't just a philosophical musing, it's a practical tool for navigating the chaos of life with clarity and purpose. Take failure, for example. Imagine you've worked tirelessly on a project only to see it fall short of expectations. It's natural to feel disappointed, even frustrated. But here's the Stoic perspective: you can't control the outcome, but you can control how you process it. Do you let it define you, or do you use it as a stepping stone to grow? Do you dwell on what went wrong, or do you focus on what you can learn and improve for next time? Let's bring this to life with a real-world scenario. Picture someone who's just lost their job. It's a devastating blow, and the immediate reaction might be panic or despair. But Stoicism reminds us to pause and ask, what's truly within my control here? I can't change the fact that the job is gone, but I can control how I spend my time moving forward. I can update my resume, network with others, and explore new opportunities. I can choose to see this not as an ending, but as a chance to pivot towards something even better. So here's a question for you to reflect on. What's one challenge you're facing right now? And more importantly, what aspects of it are truly within your control? By shifting your focus to what you can influence, you reclaim your power and open the door to resilience and growth. This is the essence of Stoic bravery: not avoiding adversity, but meeting it head-on with clarity and intention. Now, let's turn to another powerful Stoic tool: cognitive detachment. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of outcomes you can't control. Imagine pouring your heart into something, a project, a relationship, a goal, only to see it unravel despite your best efforts. It's easy to feel crushed, right? But what if, instead of tying your happiness to the result, you focused on the effort itself? Take Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, as an example. When he was exiled to Corsica by Emperor Claudius, he could have spiraled into despair. Instead, he chose to see the exile not as a punishment, but as an opportunity. He wrote, "A wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity." In other words, he didn't let the circumstances dictate his inner peace. By detaching from the outcome, whether he'd return to Rome or spend his life in exile, he found freedom in focusing on what he could do: studying, writing, and reflecting. This same principle applies to modern challenges. Think about a breakup. It's painful, no doubt, but the Stoic approach would be to detach from the idea of what could have been, and instead focus on what you can learn from the experience. Can you grow stronger? Can you gain clarity about what you truly want in a relationship by shifting your attention from the emotional outcome to the effort of self-improvement? You reclaim your sense of agency and peace. Here's a quote from Seneca that captures this beautifully. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. How much of our pain comes from clinging to outcomes we can't control? How much of it is self-inflicted because we refuse to let go? So here's a challenge for you. Think about a situation where you're deeply attached to a specific outcome. Maybe it's a job interview, a creative project, or even a personal relationship. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you redirected your energy toward the effort itself, toward doing your best regardless of the result? Cognitive detachment isn't about giving up, it's about finding strength in the process. It's about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens, you can control how you engage with it. This is where Stoic bravery shines, not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it into a source of resilience. By detaching from outcomes, you create space for growth, clarity, and ultimately peace. What if you could love every challenge life throws at you? What if, instead of resisting the difficulties you face, you welcome them as essential parts of your journey? This is the essence of Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. It's a Stoic concept that encourages us not just to accept what happens, but to embrace it wholeheartedly, seeing every obstacle as an opportunity for growth. As Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply inspired by Stoicism, once wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." At its core, Amor Fati is about shifting your perspective. It's not about pretending that hardship doesn't hurt or that challenges aren't difficult. It's about recognizing that these experiences are integral to who you are and who you're becoming. Think of it like this: life is a sculptor and adversity is the chisel. Each strike might feel painful in the moment, but over time, those very strikes shape you into something stronger, more refined, and more resilient. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine someone recovering from a serious injury. At first, it's easy to feel anger or frustration. Why did this happen? Why me? But with Amor Fati, the focus shifts. Instead of asking why, the question becomes, what can I learn from this? Maybe the injury forces them to slow down, to appreciate the small victories, or to discover new strengths they didn't know they had. Maybe it leads them to connect with others in ways they never would have otherwise. By embracing the injury as part of their story, they transform it from a setback into a source of growth. Now consider your own life. What's a challenge you're facing right now? Maybe it's a difficult relationship, a career setback, or an unexpected change in plans. How might your perspective shift if you chose to see this obstacle not as something to resent, but as something to embrace? What opportunities for growth might it hold? This doesn't mean you have to like every difficult moment. It simply means choosing to see the value in it. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us, every difficulty in life presents us with an opportunity to turn inward and to invoke our own submerged inner resources. By loving your fate, by embracing every twist and turn, you unlock a deeper sense of resilience and purpose. So here's a question to carry with you. How can you practice Amor Fati in your own life? How can you start to see your struggles not as enemies but as teachers? When you begin to view adversity through this lens, you'll find that even the hardest moments can become sources of strength, wisdom, and ultimately triumph. Now let's explore one of the most transformative ideas in Stoicism: the obstacle is the way. This principle flips the script on how we view challenges, urging us to see them not as barriers but as opportunities. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic thinkers, embodied this mindset during his reign as Roman emperor. Faced with wars, plagues, and political turmoil, he didn't crumble under the weight of adversity. Instead, he saw each crisis as a chance to strengthen his leadership, deepen his wisdom, and serve his people with greater resolve. In his personal writings, later compiled as meditations, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This idea isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a timeless truth that applies to every aspect of life. Think about a modern-day entrepreneur who faces a business failure. It's easy to see the collapse as the end of the road, but what if it's actually the beginning of a new one? When one door closes, another opens, and often, the lessons learned from failure become the foundation for future success. Take the story of Steve Jobs, for instance. After being ousted from Apple, the company he co-founded, he could have let bitterness consume him. Instead, he used the setback as a catalyst for growth, eventually returning to Apple with new ideas that revolutionized the tech industry. So, how can you apply this mindset to your own life? Start by asking yourself, what's standing in your way right now? Is it a difficult relationship, a career setback, or a personal struggle? Now, reframe it. Instead of seeing it as a roadblock, ask yourself, how can this obstacle become my pathway to growth? What strengths can I develop? What lessons can I learn? And how can this challenge shape me into a better version of myself? This isn't about ignoring the difficulty of the situation. It's about shifting your perspective to see the potential within it. Every obstacle carries within it the seeds of opportunity. It's up to us to nurture them. Whether you're facing a small inconvenience or a life-altering challenge, remember, the obstacle isn't something to avoid or resent. It's the very thing that can propel you forward if you choose to see it that way. Consider this as a guiding question. What's one obstacle in your life right now that you could reframe as a stepping stone? By embracing the Stoic idea that the obstacle is the way, you transform challenges into catalysts for growth, resilience, and ultimately triumph. This mindset doesn't just help you survive adversity, it helps you thrive because of it. Resilience isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about how you show up in the face of it. At the heart of Stoicism lies the belief that true strength comes from cultivating virtues like courage, wisdom, and integrity. These qualities aren't just abstract ideals, they're the tools that help us navigate life's storms with grace and purpose. As Epictetus once said, circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him. In other words, it's not what happens to us that defines us, but how we respond. And that response is shaped by the virtues we choose to embody. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine someone standing up for a deeply held belief, even when it's unpopular or met with resistance. It could be as simple as speaking out against an unfair policy at work, or as profound as advocating for a cause they believe in, despite facing criticism or backlash. What makes this act courageous isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in alignment with their values even when it's hard. This is the essence of Stoic virtue, doing what's right, not because it's easy, but because it's meaningful. Now think about your own life. Where do you see opportunities to practice courage, wisdom, or integrity? Maybe it's in a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or a decision that requires you to choose between what's convenient and what's right. Virtues aren't developed in moments of comfort, they're forged in the fires of adversity. Every time you choose to act with courage, you strengthen your resilience. Every time you approach a challenge with wisdom, you deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Here's a practical way to start cultivating virtue. Reflect on your core values. What matters most to you? What kind of person do you want to be, especially when things get tough? By aligning your actions with these values, you not only build resilience but also create a life of purpose and meaning. So, here's a question to carry with you. What's one area of your life where you can practice virtue today? Whether it's showing courage in the face of fear, exercising wisdom in a difficult decision, or acting with integrity when it's easier to compromise, every small choice adds up. These virtues become the foundation of your resilience, helping you not only survive adversity but thrive because of it. This is the power of Stoic virtue. It transforms challenges into opportunities for growth, not just for yourself but for those around you. When you live with courage and wisdom, you inspire others to do the same, and in doing so, you create a ripple effect of strength, resilience, and hope. How often do you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of thoughts about the future, replaying past mistakes or worrying about things that haven't even happened yet? It's easy to get lost in the what-ifs and if-onlys, but Stoicism offers a powerful antidote, the practice of presence. Living in the moment isn't just about mindfulness, it's about reclaiming your power to focus on what truly matters right here and now. As Seneca wisely observed, the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. In other words, when we fixate on the future or dwell on the past, we miss the richness of the present moment, the only time we ever truly have. Stoic presence isn't about ignoring the future or pretending the past doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that the present is where life unfolds. Think about it, you can't change yesterday and tomorrow is still unwritten. The only moment you can act, decide, or influence is this one. By anchoring yourself in the now, you reduce the mental clutter of anxiety and gain clarity about what's truly important. Let's bring this to life with a simple exercise, mindful breathing. Take a moment to pause and focus on your breath. Notice the rhythm of each inhale and exhale. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the sensation of breathing. This isn't just a relaxation technique, it's a Stoic practice in action. By focusing on your breath, you're training your mind to stay grounded in the present, free from the distractions of past regrets or future worries. Now consider how this applies to everyday life. Imagine you're in a tense meeting at work. Instead of worrying about how it will end or replaying what you should have said earlier, focus on what's happening in the room. Listen actively, engage fully, and respond thoughtfully. By staying present, you not only reduce your stress but also perform at your best. The same principle applies to personal relationships, creative projects, or even quiet moments of reflection. Presence transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life do you struggle to stay present? Is it during difficult conversations, moments of uncertainty, or even in times of joy? The Stoic approach invites you to bring your full attention to whatever you're doing, whether it's a mundane task or a meaningful interaction. By practicing presence, you cultivate a deeper sense of peace and purpose, one moment at a time. So, as you move through your day, try this simple yet profound exercise. Pause and ask yourself, am I fully here right now? If your mind starts to drift, gently guide it back to the present. Over time, this practice will help you build resilience, clarity, and a profound appreciation for the life you're living, not the one you're imagining or remembering. The present moment is your greatest gift. How will you choose to use it? Perception is everything. In Stoicism, how we see the world and the challenges within it shapes not just our experience but our ability to grow through it. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. It's a reminder that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we interpret it. And that shift in perspective, it's transformative. Think about a difficult coworker, someone who seems to make every day a little harder. It's easy to label them as frustrating or even toxic, but what if you saw them differently? What if, instead of viewing them as an obstacle, you saw them as a teacher? Maybe their behavior is highlighting your own patience or teaching you how to communicate more effectively. Maybe they're helping you develop resilience in ways you wouldn't have otherwise. This isn't about excusing their actions, it's about finding value in the situation, even when it feels uncomfortable. Here's the key: perspective isn't just about seeing things in a positive light. It's about seeing them in a useful light. When you reframe a challenge as an opportunity for growth, you take back control. You stop being a passive victim of your circumstances and start becoming an active participant in your own development. So let's bring this to life. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Your first reaction might be frustration or panic, but what if you used that time differently? What if you saw it as a chance to practice patience, to reflect on your priorities, or even to listen to something inspiring? The situation hasn't changed, but your experience of it has, and that changes everything. Now, let's make this personal. What's a challenge you're facing right now? Maybe it's a strained relationship, a financial setback, or a project that isn't going as planned. How might your perspective shift if you saw it not as a problem, but as an opportunity? What could you learn from this situation? How could it help you grow? This is the power of perspective. It turns adversity into a classroom. By choosing to see challenges through this lens, you don't just endure them, you grow because of them. And that's where Stoic bravery truly shines, not in avoiding difficulty, but in transforming it into something meaningful. So, the next time you're faced with a challenge, ask yourself, how can I see this differently? What's the lesson here? When you start to look for the value in every experience, you'll find that even the toughest moments can become stepping stones to something greater. Endurance and patience are the quiet, unsung heroes of Stoic philosophy. They're not flashy virtues, but they're the bedrock of resilience, the steady hands that guide us through life's storms. Consider Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman and Stoic who became a symbol of unyielding integrity. When faced with the collapse of the Roman Republic and the rise of Julius Caesar's dictatorship, Cato didn't waver. Even in defeat, he remained steadfast, choosing death over compromise. His life wasn't defined by victory, but by his unwavering commitment to his principles, a testament to the power of enduring with patience even when the world seems to crumble around you. This idea of enduring hardship with grace isn't just ancient history, it's a timeless skill. Epictetus, another towering figure in Stoicism, put it this way: bear and forbear. Two simple words, but they carry profound weight. Endure what you must and refrain from reacting impulsively. It's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them so they don't master you. Let's bring this into the modern world. Think about a long-term project. Maybe it's writing a book, launching a business, or training for a marathon. The initial excitement fades, obstacles arise, and progress feels slow. It's easy to lose motivation, to question whether it's worth the effort. But Stoicism reminds us the value isn't just in the outcome. It's in the endurance itself, in the quiet determination to keep going even when it's hard. Every step forward, no matter how small, builds character and resilience. Here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life are you being called to endure? Maybe it's a challenging relationship, a demanding job, or a personal goal that feels out of reach. How can you approach it with patience, not as a burden, but as an opportunity to grow? By embracing the process, you transform endurance from a struggle into a strength. This is the essence of Stoic endurance. It's not about gritting your teeth and pushing through. It's about finding meaning in the journey, even when the destination feels far away. It's about recognizing that every moment of patience, every act of perseverance, is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. So the next time you're tempted to give up, remember, endurance isn't just about lasting, it's about thriving one step at a time. What can you be grateful for even in the midst of hardship? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive when life feels overwhelming, but it's precisely in those moments that gratitude becomes one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit. Gratitude isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about finding value even in the smallest corners of adversity. As Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." For he is not permitted to prove himself. In other words, challenges aren't just obstacles, they're opportunities to uncover our own strength, resilience, and capacity for growth. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you've just gone through a breakup. It's painful and it's natural to focus on the loss, but what if you shifted your perspective even slightly? Maybe you're grateful for the lessons you learned about what you truly want in a relationship. Maybe you're thankful for the time you now have to reconnect with friends, pursue a passion, or simply focus on yourself. Gratitude doesn't erase the hurt, but it helps you see the bigger picture, a picture where even the hardest moments have something to offer. This is where Stoicism shines. It teaches us to look for the silver lining, not as a way to sugarcoat reality, but as a way to reclaim our power. When we practice gratitude, we're not just acknowledging the good, we're actively choosing to focus on it. And that choice, small as it may seem, can transform how we experience adversity. So, how can you start cultivating this mindset? One powerful Stoic practice is gratitude journaling. At the end of each day, take a few moments to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your face, a kind word from a stranger, or even the strength you found to get through a tough day. The act of reflecting on these moments trains your mind to look for value even in the midst of struggle. Here's a challenge for you. Think about a current challenge you're facing. What's one thing you can be grateful for within that situation? Maybe it's an opportunity to learn, a chance to connect with others, or simply the reminder that you're stronger than you think. By actively seeking out these moments of gratitude, you shift your focus from what's lacking to what's abundant, and that shift can be transformative. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good exercise, it's a practice that deepens resilience and fosters growth. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there's always something to appreciate, something to learn, and something to carry forward. So the next time you're faced with adversity, ask yourself, what can I be grateful for here? You might be surprised by how much light you can find, even in the shadows. Change is the only constant in life. It's a truth we all know, yet one we often resist. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that impermanence isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, wrote, "Everything is ephemeral, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In other words, nothing lasts forever, not our achievements, our possessions, or even our relationships. And while that might sound unsettling at first, it's also incredibly liberating. When we accept impermanence, we free ourselves from the grip of fear and attachment, opening the door to a deeper sense of peace and resilience. Consider the experience of losing someone you love. It's one of the most painful moments we can face, and it's natural to feel overwhelmed by grief. But Stoicism invites us to see this loss through a different lens. While the pain is real, so is the truth that everything in life, even life itself, is temporary. This doesn't diminish the value of what we've lost. It reminds us to cherish what we have here and now. By accepting impermanence, we can honor the memories of those we've lost without being consumed by the fear of losing more. This principle applies to more than just loss. Think about a job you once loved but had to leave, or a phase of life that's now behind you. It's easy to cling to what was, longing for the past or fearing the future. But when we accept that change is inevitable, we can approach life with greater flexibility and openness. Instead of resisting what's new or different, we can adapt and find meaning in the present moment. Here's a practical way to practice this mindset. Reflect on something in your life that feels uncertain or fleeting. Maybe it's a project at work, a relationship, or even your own health. Instead of fearing its impermanence, ask yourself, how can I appreciate this while it lasts? How can I make the most of this moment, knowing it won't last forever? By shifting your focus from what might be lost to what you can gain right now, you transform impermanence from a source of fear into a source of gratitude. So here's a question to carry with you. Where in your life are you resisting change, and how might that resistance be holding you back? When we stop fighting the natural flow of life and start embracing it, we find a deeper sense of peace and purpose. Impermanence isn't the enemy, it's the very thing that makes life so profoundly beautiful. By accepting it, we not only reduce our fear, but also open ourselves to the endless possibilities of the present moment. What small step can you take today to move forward? It's a simple question, but one that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, the discipline of action. The Stoics believed that true progress comes not from waiting for the perfect moment, but from taking purposeful steps, no matter how small, toward your goals. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, it's not enough to simply think about what you want, you have to act. And that action, especially in the face of challenges, is where growth happens. Let's break this down. Imagine you're facing a daunting task. Maybe it's starting a new project, learning a skill, or making a significant life change. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to put it off, or to convince yourself that you're not ready. But Stoicism teaches us that effort, not results, is what matters most. The act of trying, of taking that first step, is where the real transformation begins. Take the example of building a new habit. Say you want to start exercising regularly. Instead of focusing on running a marathon or lifting heavy weights, begin with something small, like a 10-minute walk each day. The key isn't the intensity or the outcome, it's the consistency. Over time, those small actions add up, creating momentum and building confidence. And even if you miss a day or face setbacks, the effort itself is what strengthens your resolve. Here's the Stoic perspective. Life will always throw obstacles in your path, but you don't need to wait for the perfect conditions to act. In fact, waiting for the right time often becomes an excuse for inaction. Instead, focus on what you can do right now, no matter how insignificant it may seem. That first step, however small, is a victory in itself. So, here's a challenge for you. What's one small, actionable step you can take today to move closer to your goal? Maybe it's sending an email you've been putting off, spending 5 minutes meditating, or simply making a list of what needs to be done. The size of the step doesn't matter. What matters is that you take it. This is the essence of the discipline of action. It's about showing up even when it's hard and putting in the effort even when the results aren't guaranteed. By focusing on the process rather than the outcome, you build resilience, confidence, and a sense of purpose. And over time, those small steps lead to big changes. So, what's your next move? The choice is yours, and the time to act is now. The desire for more success, more possessions, more recognition can feel like an endless chase. But what happens when that desire becomes unchecked, when it consumes us to the point where nothing is ever enough? Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned us about this very danger. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. In other words, it's not the absence of things that causes suffering, but the endless craving for what we don't have. This is where the Stoic discipline of desire comes in, a practice that helps us reframe our wants, reduce our suffering, and find contentment in what we already possess. Think about the modern world where instant gratification is just a click away. We're constantly bombarded with ads, social media posts, and messages telling us we need more money, more likes, more stuff. And yet, the more we chase these external markers of success, the emptier we often feel. Why? Because desire, when left unchecked, becomes a bottomless pit. It's never satisfied, it always wants more. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine someone scrolling through social media, comparing their life to the highlight reels of others. They see a friend's new car, a colleague's promotion, or a stranger's picture-perfect vacation. Suddenly, their own life feels lacking. They start to crave what others have, even if they don't truly need it. This cycle of comparison and craving can lead to frustration, envy, and ultimately suffering. But here's the Stoic alternative. Instead of chasing what others have, focus on what you already possess. Take a moment to reflect on your own life, your health, your relationships, your achievements. Are you truly lacking, or have you simply lost sight of what's already there? By shifting your focus from what you want to what you have, you break the cycle of endless desire. Now, let's go deeper. Think about a time when you achieved something you thought would bring you happiness. Maybe it was a promotion, a new gadget, or a milestone you worked hard to reach. Did the joy last, or did it fade quickly, leaving you wanting something else? This is the nature of desire. It's fleeting. The Stoic approach isn't about eliminating desire altogether. It's about managing it so it doesn't control you. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one desire in your life that feels unfulfilled? And more importantly, what would happen if you let go of it, even just a little? By practicing the discipline of desire, you reclaim your peace of mind. You stop chasing the next thing and start appreciating what's already here. This isn't about settling, it's about finding freedom in simplicity and strength in contentment. The next time you feel the pull of desire, pause and ask yourself, is this something I truly need, or is it something I've been conditioned to want? By aligning your desires with your values, you create a life that's not just full of things, but full of meaning. And that, in the end, is the true measure of wealth. How often do you assume the worst? It's a question worth asking because more often than not, our initial judgments about a situation can shape our entire experience of it. This is where the Stoic discipline of ascent comes into play, a practice that invites us to pause, question, and reassess the thoughts and beliefs we automatically accept as true. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that reaction, it starts with the judgments we make in our minds. Let's break this down. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone you know passes by without saying hello. Your first thought might be, they're ignoring me. Did I do something wrong? But here's the thing, that thought is just an assumption, not a fact. The person might have been distracted, in a hurry, or simply didn't see you. Yet, in that moment, your mind has already created a story, one that can spiral into unnecessary worry or frustration. This is the power of the discipline of ascent. It teaches us to catch those automatic judgments before they take root. Instead of accepting every thought as truth, we learn to question it. Is this assumption accurate? Is there another way to interpret this situation? By challenging our judgments, we create space for clarity and peace, even in the face of uncertainty. Here's a practical way to apply this. Try journaling about your assumptions. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on a situation where you felt upset or anxious. Write down the thoughts that came to mind in that moment. Then ask yourself, was this thought based on fact or was it an assumption? Could there be another explanation? This simple exercise not only helps you become more aware of your thought patterns, but also empowers you to choose how you respond. Now, let's make this personal. Think about a recent challenge you've faced. What judgments did you make about it? Did you assume it was insurmountable or that it reflected poorly on you? What would happen if you challenged those assumptions? What if, instead of seeing it as a failure, you saw it as a learning opportunity? This shift in perspective doesn't change the situation itself, but it changes how you experience it, and that can make all the difference. Epictetus reminds us we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. In other words, it's not the adversity itself that causes suffering, it's the meaning we attach to it. By practicing the discipline of ascent, you take back control of your narrative. You stop being a passive recipient of your thoughts and start becoming an active participant in shaping them. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you find yourself assuming the worst, pause and ask, is this thought true? Is there another way to look at this? By questioning your judgments, you create space for growth, resilience, and a deeper understanding of yourself. This is the essence of Stoic bravery, not avoiding adversity, but meeting it with clarity, curiosity, and the courage to see it differently. The Stoics often remind us that while we each walk our own path, we are never truly alone. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on the interconnectedness of humanity, wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." This simple yet profound idea underscores the Stoic belief that our well-being is deeply tied to the well-being of those around us. In times of adversity, it's easy to feel isolated, as though no one could possibly understand what we're going through. But the truth is, struggle is a universal experience, and leaning on others isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to our shared humanity. Think about a time when you faced a challenge. Maybe it was a personal loss, a career setback, or a health scare. Now think about the people who stood by you during that time. A friend who listened without judgment, a family member who offered a kind word, or even a stranger who showed unexpected kindness. These connections, however small they may seem, remind us that we're part of something larger than ourselves. They remind us that we don't have to face life's storms alone. The Stoic approach to community isn't about dependency, it's about interdependence. It's recognizing that while we're responsible for our own choices and actions, we're also part of a network of relationships that can uplift and sustain us. Consider the example of a close-knit group of friends navigating a crisis together. One person might offer practical help, another emotional support, and another a fresh perspective. Together, they create a web of resilience that strengthens everyone involved. So, let's bring this to life. Imagine you're going through a difficult period. Perhaps you're feeling overwhelmed at work or dealing with a personal loss. Instead of retreating into isolation, you reach out to someone you trust. Maybe it's a mentor who offers guidance, a colleague who shares their own experiences, or a loved one who simply sits with you in silence. That act of connection, of vulnerability, can be transformative. It reminds us that we're not just individuals struggling in isolation. We're part of a community, a collective, a hive. Here's a question to reflect on. Who are the people in your life that you can turn to when times get tough? And equally important, how can you be that person for someone else? The Stoics believed that true strength isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about supporting one another through it. By nurturing these connections, we not only ease our own burdens, but also contribute to the well-being of those around us. This is the beauty of Stoic community. It transforms adversity from a solitary struggle into a shared journey. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we're surrounded by others who care, who understand, and who are willing to walk beside us. So, the next time you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, remember, you don't have to carry it alone. Reach out, lean in, and let the strength of community lift you up. What are you holding onto that's out of your control? It's a question worth asking because more often than we'd like to admit, we cling to things we can't change, past mistakes, other people's opinions, or even circumstances that are simply beyond our reach. But here's the truth, holding on to what we can't control doesn't protect us, it weighs us down. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this burden, the art of letting go. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it this way: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. In other words, much of our pain comes not from the situation itself, but from our refusal to accept it. When we resist what we can't change, we create unnecessary suffering. But when we learn to let go, we find freedom. Freedom to focus on what truly matters, freedom to move forward, and freedom to live with greater peace. Let's bring this idea to life with a practical example. Imagine you're holding onto resentment towards someone who wronged you. Maybe it's a friend who betrayed your trust, a colleague who took credit for your work, or even a family member who hurt you deeply. It's natural to feel anger, to replay the situation in your mind, and to wish things had turned out differently. But here's the Stoic perspective: you can't change what happened. What you can change is how you respond. Forgiveness in this context isn't about excusing the other person's behavior or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about releasing the grip that the past has on you. It's about choosing to focus on your own growth and well-being rather than staying tied to something you can't control. When you let go of resentment, you reclaim your energy that can be directed toward building a better future. Now, let's make this personal. What's something in your life that you're holding onto, even though it's out of your control? Is it a past mistake you can't stop replaying in your mind? A relationship that didn't turn out the way you hoped? Or maybe it's a situation at work or in your personal life that feels unfair. Whatever it is, take a moment to reflect. What would it feel like to let it go? This doesn't mean you have to forget or pretend it doesn't matter. It simply means choosing to release the emotional weight of it. By doing so, you create space for new possibilities, new growth, and new peace. The art of letting go is one of the most liberating practices Stoicism offers. It's not about giving up, it's about choosing where to direct your energy. When you stop clinging to what you can't control, you open yourself up to a life of greater clarity, resilience, and freedom. So, what's one thing you need to release today? The choice is yours, and with it comes the power to move forward, unburdened and unbound. Pride can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it fuels confidence and ambition, but on the other, it blinds us to our own limitations and prevents us from learning from our mistakes. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This simple yet profound statement captures the essence of humility. The willingness to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, that we're fallible, and that there's always room to grow. Consider a scenario many of us can relate to: admitting a mistake at work. Maybe you overlooked a critical detail in a project, or perhaps you misjudged a situation and made a poor decision. The instinctive reaction might be to deflect blame, to justify your actions, or even to double down to protect your ego. But what happens when you choose humility instead? When you say, "I was wrong and I'm sorry, here's how I plan to fix it," that moment of humility isn't a sign of weakness, it's a demonstration of strength. It shows that you value growth over pride, that you're willing to learn from the situation rather than repeat it. Here's where the Stoic perspective becomes particularly powerful. Humility isn't just about admitting mistakes, it's about embracing the lessons they offer. Every setback, every failure, every moment of adversity carries with it the potential for growth, but only if we're humble enough to see it. When we let go of the need to be right, we open ourselves up to new perspectives, new ideas, and new ways of doing things. We become students of life, constantly learning, evolving, and improving. So let's bring this to life. Think about a recent challenge where pride might have gotten in your way. Maybe it was a disagreement with a loved one, a missed opportunity, or a moment where you felt stuck. Now ask yourself, how might humility have changed the outcome? What could you have learned if you'd approached the situation with an open mind and a willingness to grow? This is the value of humility. It turns adversity into a teacher. It reminds us that we're not infallible, that we're all works in progress, and that every challenge is an opportunity to become better. By embracing humility, we not only grow as individuals but also build stronger, more meaningful connections with those around us. As you move through your day, consider this: where can you practice humility today? Is there a situation where you can set aside your pride and choose growth instead? The path of humility isn't always easy, but it's one of the most rewarding journeys you can take. It's a journey that leads not just to success, but to wisdom, resilience, and a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. How can preparing for the worst actually help you stay calm? It might sound counterintuitive, but the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, is all about anticipating challenges before they arise. This isn't about pessimism or dwelling on negative outcomes. It's about mental preparation, about strengthening your resilience by facing potential difficulties head-on. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, put it this way: "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." In other words, when you've already considered what could go wrong, you're far less likely to be caught off guard and far more likely to respond with clarity and composure. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're about to have a difficult conversation with a colleague or loved one. Maybe there's tension, or perhaps you're delivering feedback that might not be well received. It's natural to feel anxious about how the conversation will go. But what if, instead of avoiding those feelings, you sat down beforehand and thought through the worst-case scenarios? What if the other person reacts defensively? What if emotions run high? By visualizing these possibilities, you're not just bracing yourself, you're preparing your response. You're creating a mental roadmap that helps you stay grounded, no matter how the conversation unfolds. This practice isn't about expecting the worst to happen, it's about being ready for anything. Think of it like a fire drill. You don't expect a fire to break out, but you practice the steps so that if it does, you know exactly what to do. The same principle applies here. By anticipating challenges, you reduce their emotional grip on you. You're no longer reacting in the moment, you're responding with intention. So, how can you start practicing premeditatio malorum in your own life? Begin with something small. Maybe it's a presentation at work, a tough decision, or even a day filled with back-to-back commitments. Take a few minutes to sit quietly and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? How would I handle it? What steps could I take to navigate that situation effectively? By mentally rehearsing these scenarios, you build a sense of confidence and control. Here's the beauty of this exercise. It doesn't just prepare you for challenges, it also helps you appreciate the present moment more deeply. When you've already considered what could go wrong, you're less likely to take what's going right for granted. You become more resilient, more adaptable, and more at peace with the uncertainties of life. So, here's a challenge for you. Think about one situation coming up in your life that feels uncertain or daunting. How can you apply premeditatio malorum to prepare for it? By embracing this Stoic practice, you're not just bracing for the worst, you're equipping yourself to handle whatever comes your way with strength, clarity, and grace. And that, in the end, is the true power of preparation. Self-reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have for turning adversity into growth. It's not just about looking back, it's about learning, understanding, and preparing ourselves for what lies ahead. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most respected Stoic thinkers, emphasized this practice when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength, At its core, self-reflection is about gaining clarity, not just about what happened, but about how we responded and how we can respond better next time. Think about it this way: every day is filled with moments big and small that test our patience, our resilience, and our values. Maybe it's a disagreement with a coworker, a missed deadline, or even a moment of self-doubt. Without reflection, these moments can blur together, leaving us stuck in the same patterns. But when we take the time to examine them, we uncover valuable insights. What triggered our reaction? What could we have done differently? And most importantly, what can we learn from it? Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've just had a tough day at work. A project didn't go as planned, and you found yourself snapping at a colleague in frustration. Instead of brushing it off or dwelling on it, you sit down at the end of the day and reflect. What led to that reaction? Was it stress, fatigue, or something deeper? By asking these questions, you're not just replaying the event, you're dissecting it, understanding it, and preparing yourself to handle it differently in the future. This is the essence of Stoic self-reflection. It's a daily habit of looking inward, not to dwell on mistakes, but to grow from them. It's about taking ownership of your thoughts, actions, and emotions, and using them as stepping stones toward becoming the best version of yourself. And the beauty of it, it doesn't require anything more than a few quiet minutes and a willingness to be honest with yourself. So, how can you start this practice? Try setting aside 5 minutes at the end of each day to reflect. Ask yourself, what went well today, what didn't, what did I learn, and how can I apply that tomorrow? You don't need a fancy journal or a perfect routine, just a commitment to showing up for yourself day after day. Over time, you'll find that this simple habit not only helps you navigate challenges more effectively, but also deepens your understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. Self-reflection isn't just a Stoic practice, it's a universal tool for growth. It reminds us that adversity isn't something to fear or avoid, it's something to learn from. By taking the time to reflect, you transform every challenge into an opportunity for clarity, resilience, and self-improvement. So, tonight, when the day is done, take a moment to pause, look inward, and ask yourself, what did today teach me? The answers might just surprise you. What would it take for you to start fresh? It's a question that can feel daunting, even overwhelming, especially when life doesn't go as planned. But here's the truth: every ending carries within it the seeds of a new beginning. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that renewal isn't just possible, it's essential for growth. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, put it this way: every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. In other words, the very setbacks that feel like failures can become the foundation for something entirely new, something even better than before. Take the example of someone who's just lost their job. It's a moment that can feel like the world is crumbling, but what if it's actually an invitation to reinvent yourself? Maybe this is the push you needed to explore a career you've always dreamed of, to start your own business, or to develop skills you never had time to pursue. The Stoics would see this not as a loss but as an opportunity, a chance to align your work with your values, to create something meaningful, and to build a life that truly reflects who you are. This idea of renewal isn't limited to careers. Think about a relationship that's ended, a dream that didn't pan out, or even a habit you've struggled to break. Each of these moments, no matter how painful, offers the chance to start over. It's not about erasing the past or pretending it didn't happen. It's about learning from it and using those lessons to create a brighter future. So, let's make this personal. What's one area of your life where you've been holding onto something that's no longer serving you? Maybe it's a job that drains your energy, a routine that feels stale, or even a mindset that's keeping you stuck. What would it look like to let go of that and start fresh? What new possibilities could open up if you embraced this moment as an opportunity for reinvention? The courage to start over isn't about having all the answers or knowing exactly where you're headed. It's about trusting that even in uncertainty, there's potential. It's about believing that every ending is also a beginning and that you have the power to shape what comes next. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on where you are right now. What's one thing you could let go of to make space for something new? The path of renewal isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. Because when you have the courage to start over, you're not just rebuilding, you're creating a life that's more aligned, more meaningful, and more truly yours. Emotions can be a powerful force. They drive our decisions, shape our relationships, and color our experiences. But when left unchecked, they can also cloud our judgment, lead us astray, and create unnecessary suffering. Stoicism doesn't advocate for suppressing emotions. Instead, it teaches us how to balance them with reason, ensuring that we respond to life's challenges with clarity and purpose. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it this way: "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." In other words, it's not the event that causes our emotional reaction, it's how we interpret it. And that interpretation, it's where reason comes in. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument with a loved one. Emotions are running high, and every word feels like a spark that could ignite a fire. In that moment, it's easy to react impulsively, to say something hurtful, to escalate the conflict, or to shut down entirely. But what if, instead of letting your emotions take the wheel, you paused and asked yourself, what's truly at stake here? What's the most rational way to resolve this? By stepping back and engaging your reason, you create space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This balance between emotion and reason isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about cultivating inner harmony. Think of it like this: emotions are the waves on the ocean, constantly moving and shifting. Reason is the anchor, keeping you steady even when the seas are rough. Together, they create a dynamic equilibrium, allowing you to navigate life's storms with both passion and perspective. So, how can you start practicing this balance in your own life? Begin by paying attention to your emotional triggers. What situations tend to provoke a strong reaction in you? Is it criticism, rejection, or feeling misunderstood? Once you've identified these triggers, the next step is to pause before responding. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's the most constructive way to handle this? How can I address the issue without letting my emotions take over? Here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life do you feel your emotions and reason are most out of sync? Maybe it's in your relationships, your work, or even your internal dialogue. By bringing awareness to these moments, you can start to shift the balance, responding to challenges with both heart and mind. The Stoic approach to emotion and reason isn't about choosing one over the other, it's about integrating both. It's about feeling deeply but thinking clearly, allowing your emotions to inform your actions without letting them dictate them. When you strike this balance, you not only navigate life's challenges more effectively, but also live with greater authenticity and peace. So, the next time you feel the tide of emotion rising, remember, you have the power to anchor yourself in reason and respond with intention. That's the true strength of Stoic balance. Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of life that has endured for centuries because of its timeless relevance. In a world that often feels unpredictable and overwhelming, the principles of Stoic bravery offer a compass, guiding us through life's storms with clarity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." These words remind us that our actions, especially in the face of adversity, have the power to leave a lasting legacy, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. Throughout this journey, we've explored the core ideas that make Stoicism such a transformative practice. the Dichotomy of Control, which teaches us to focus on what we can influence, cognitive detachment, which frees us from the emotional weight of outcomes, Amor Fati, the love of fate, which helps us embrace life's challenges as opportunities for growth, and the discipline of action, empowers us to take small, meaningful steps forward, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. Together, these principles form a toolkit for resilience, a way to not just survive adversity, but to thrive because of it. Take, for example, someone navigating a personal crisis, a health scare, the loss of a loved one, or a career setback. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to question whether you have the strength to keep going. But Stoicism reminds us that even in the darkest moments, we have choices. We can choose to see the challenge as a teacher, to focus on what we can control, and to take action, no matter how small. By doing so, we don't just overcome the crisis, we transform it into a source of strength, wisdom, and ultimately triumph. This is the legacy of Stoic bravery. It's not about avoiding pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about facing life's difficulties with courage, clarity, and compassion. It's about showing up even when it's hard and choosing to grow even when it hurts. And in doing so, we inspire others to do the same. Our resilience becomes a beacon, a reminder that no matter how tough the journey, we have the power to rise above it. So here's a question to carry with you. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? How can you apply these Stoic principles to your own life, not just to overcome challenges, but to transform them into something meaningful? Every moment of bravery, every act of resilience, every step forward, it all adds up. And in the end, it's not just about the obstacles you faced, but how you faced them. That's the true measure of a legacy worth leaving. As you move forward, remember this: the challenges you face today are shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. And the way you respond to them, with courage, with wisdom, with grace, will echo far beyond the present moment. So, embrace the lessons of Stoic bravery and let your actions speak louder than words. Because in the end, it's not just about how you lived, it's about the legacy you leave behind. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the key themes we've explored. At the heart of Stoicism lies the dichotomy of control, the understanding that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. It's a simple yet profound idea that shifts the focus from what's happening around us to what's happening within us. Resilience, too, has been a central thread. It's not about avoiding hardship, but about meeting it with courage, clarity, and a willingness to grow. And gratitude, that practice of finding value even in the smallest moments, has shown us how to reframe adversity, not as something to resent, but as something to embrace. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." These words remind us that the challenges we face aren't just obstacles, they're opportunities. They're the very experiences that shape us, that teach us, and that ultimately lead us to triumph. So, how can you start applying these principles in your own life? It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Begin with something small, like journaling. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on what's within your control, what you're grateful for, and how you can respond to challenges with resilience. Or practice presence, whether it's through mindful breathing, focusing on a single task, or simply pausing to appreciate the moment. These small steps over time can lead to profound shifts in how you experience life's ups and downs. Now it's your turn. How will you use Stoic principles to navigate your own challenges? What lessons have resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're applying these ideas in your life. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing for more insights on Stoicism and personal growth. Together, we can continue to explore how ancient wisdom can help us live more meaningful, resilient, and fulfilling lives. Remember, the obstacles you face today aren't just barriers, they're invitations to grow. So embrace them, learn from them, and let them guide you toward the person you're meant to become. The journey isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And with Stoic bravery as your guide, you're not just surviving life's challenges, you're thriving because of them.